continue to talk about China and China's rise on the world stage. It was addressed in a speech by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry in Hawaii. He laid out the U.S. vision for engagement with the Asia-Pacific region. CCTV's Jim Spellman is here with more. Jim?
This is all part of the so-called pivot to Asia. That's the U.S. effort to redefine its role in the region, find ways to assert American influence there, especially as China rises in prominence. The Secretary laid out 4 main areas of concern: sustainable economic growth, clean energy policy, regional cooperation, and what he called empowering people. It was a pretty sprawling speech covering many issues, but Secretary Kerry focused on China's role in various maritime disputes.
We need to turn maritime conflicts into regional cooperation. All of us in the room understand that these disputes in the South China Sea and elsewhere, you know, they're really about more than claims to islands and reefs and rocks and the economic interests that flow from them. They're about whether might makes right, or whether global rules and norms and rule of law and international law will prevail.
Kerry said the U.S. takes no position in these individual issues, but said that these disputes shouldn't come down to a bigger country, China, having more influence simply because of its size or through military engagement. China, of course, has said the U.S. should remain out of these matters, and it's a little hard to figure out sort of the U.S. point of view saying the U.S. should have influence on some of these matters, but perhaps China shouldn't. But that was what...
Well, let's talk about the relationship between the U.S. and China. What does he have to say about that?
Secretary Kerry said that the U.S. welcomes a strong, prosperous China and wants to avoid a sort of new Cold War, like the one that went on for decades between the United States and the then Soviet Union. China's President Xi Jinping often uses the phrase new model of major country relations. Kerry echoed that, but said that there needs to be more cooperation between the two countries on issues where there's common ground to turn that concept into action.
This constructive relationship, this new model relationship of great powers, is not going to happen simply by talking about it. It's not going to happen by engaging in a slogan or pursuing a sphere of influence. It will be defined by more and better cooperation on shared challenges. And it will be defined by a mutual embrace of the rules, the norms, and institutions that have served both of our nations and the region so well.
Kerry pointed to cooperation between the U.S. and China on climate change, Iran, the DPRK, and other issues as signs that this relationship can grow and evolve constructively, but he made it clear that the United States will continue to assert its influence in the region, and he made a point of saying that that would continue despite the U.S. being engaged in all these other issues around the world, in Iraq, in Ukraine, throughout the Middle East, et cetera, Mike.
All right, Jim Spellman, thanks so much.